Today we're gonna take a look at a weapon that can work with surgical precision but hits like a 203mm artillery. The weapon is cheap, it's available at the early state, it's really easy to use, and what a beauty. So here is why you should be playing the SKS. And as always, we start off with the modability of the weapon. The SKS is a pretty simple build, which is amazing if you don't like modding that much after each raid like me, or if you're just new to the game. Nevertheless, you can make some pretty impressive builds with it. So what can you do? In the front you have a muzzle device. Then you have the ability to mount a side scope, which is amazing for budget builds. And this is, by the way, the difference between the normal SKS and an OP-SKS. The OP-SKS has this dovetail mount on the side. The normal SKS doesn't have that, so you can only mount sights at the front. But okay, back to topic. Then you can change the stock, more on that later. You can change the magazine, and you can mount a rail, which allows you to put on a laser pointer, for example, which is amazing if you want to go for the ultra budget builds, because with a laser pointer you can use the weapon on close combat while still having a side mount scope that allows you to shoot at range. Then back to the stocks, you can change those and that pretty much changes the whole weapon. But that's pretty expensive. But it wouldn't be my channel if there wasn't an alternative to get it cheap. So let's talk about the affordability. Now first off, we can buy the default SKS for 21,000 rubles. The OP-SKS for 33,000 at Jaeger level 1. But there are a couple of trades that we can use. First off, at mechanic level 2, we can trade the SKS. But again, I think that's not worth it. But the trade for the OP-SKS on the other hand is amazing. Because you only need 3 weapon parts and you get a pre-modded SKS. And if you know my channel, then you're probably already excited once you heard 3 weapon parts. Because as you know, we can buy those, of course, on the flea market, but you can also craft them yourself using a VPO. This gives you 2 weapon parts, and the VPO is the one you find on scavs all the time, or buy one at fence, buy one on the flea market for cheap. This way we get 1 weapon part for 10,000 rubles or less, which means we get the whole SKS build for 30,000 rubles or less. Now that's pretty amazing. But now a fair question, why even bother with an SKS when I can buy an AKM? First off, with the AKM you have to mod the weapon to get similar stats, so it's already a bit more expensive, and insurance wise the return rate of an SKS is just better. But also very important to know, recoil doesn't equal recoil. So in Tarkov, when 2 different weapons have the same recoil stats, it doesn't mean that the recoil is the same. So an AKM and an SKS both with 80 recoil, the SKS feels better and you can also see it visually. It has less recoil. It's really confusing, but in general just remember that recoil is different for every single weapon in the game. So it's not possible to compare stats in numbers. So that's why you could pick the SKS over an AKM. Then just put on a muzzle device, a scope, a laser pointer, and there you go. The weapon is good to go. So you can get a fully modded SKS for 40,000-50,000, which is that's amazing. But what about the ammunition? That's another point where the SKS really shines, because it's the good old Russian 7mm caliber. And as you can see, this caliber overall has pretty high damage values. The BP is of course famous throughout the game, but it's not available at the early state, so at the beginning we focus more on PS. You can buy those at proper level 1, basically for free, because for 90 somewhat rubles it's insanely cheap. And being able to put out those numbers for that little amount of money, that's pretty good, especially at the beginning of a wipe. Furthermore, PS destroys armor impressively fast. Here's a demonstration, and as you can see, even though it only penetrates level 3 armor straight away, the armor destructibility is insane. It shreds through armor pretty fast. But in later states of the game, we want to upgrade to PP. And you can do that using either the workbench or after you've completed Punisher Part 5. This mission unlocks PPs at proper level 3. This is arguably one of the best rounds in the game. because with almost 60 damage, that thing hurts. There aren't that many other rounds that can retrain penetration of almost 50 with such damage numbers. So really, as soon as you have this round unlocked, you should be able to kill everything in the game. But at the beginning, when you don't have access to BPs, don't worry, you will find them in raid regularly on raiders, on bosses, on guards, and so on. And now comes another plus for the SKS, because with the SKS we don't waste a single round if done correctly, because the SKS allows us to do a top loading. Now, why is that so important? Basically, when you play an AK and you have 2 spare magazines, when you die, you lose 90 rounds right there. 1 mag in the gun, 2 spare magazines, all gone. But with the SKS, you can change weapons or pull out your knife, and this allows you to drag the ammo straight from the pouch into your weapon. So every round that isn't loaded is safe in your pouch. This also allows you to do a kind of mix between PS and PPs. Just do a top loading with PP for maximal efficiency. So when we die, we just lose a couple of rounds. But okay, enough theory crafting. What about close range? Now the weapon is single fire, and single fire weapons tend to be not that great in close combat. But because the ammo really hurts, you can put down opponents pretty fast and shred through their armor impressively quick. But it needs some practice because you have to be relaxed. Don't forget to click in the middle of a fight. But if you're able to do that and have a clicking pattern, your opponent is gonna feel like he's in the ring with Mike Tyson himself. Because again, that caliber hurts. Just keep in mind that we usually mod our SKS for, well, 50 meters and more. A laser pointer is your best friend for close combat. So really don't forget to put one on. You could of course also use a close range sight, but in my opinion, you just miss out on a lot if you limit the SKS just to close range. Because let's talk about higher ranges. Now I gotta say right here, the SKS isn't a marksman rifle. You're not gonna hit shots 200-300 meters away. But everything on customs, no problem. And with the new ballistic system that got put into place, it's now easier than ever landing your shots with an SKS. Even Shooterborn in Heaven is no problem anymore. Now that's quite impressive when you think about it, that you just have to spend 40-50,000 ruble to have a weapon that absolutely shreds in close range, mid range, and lets you do shots like you need to for Shooterborn in Heaven. But just keep in mind, even though the caliber is pretty amazing, it's not the fastest one. So you really have to lead your shots if you wanna shoot at long distances. That means hitting a running target, it needs some practice. So in summary, what I think really elevates the SKS, it's a cheap, early available, all-rounder gun with a very good caliber. It allows for maximal efficiency with top loading without sacrificing utility. So I really think next to the AK, it's one of the best all-rounders in the game. But different than the AK is basically you don't have to control recoil that much since it's a single fire. As long as you practice the right pattern to click, you don't have to worry about recoil at all, which is amazing for people that struggle with recoil control. So all in all, I really advise you to give this weapon a try and see how this surgical artillery works for you. Then as always, I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to thumbs up as it really helps the channel. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Subscribe for more and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye.